She didn't fall in love with a ring. She fell in love with the man who forgot to mention it. And by the time she knew the truth, her heart was already homeless. She never planned to love a married man. No woman grows up dreaming of borrowed moments and hidden feelings. It started the way most dangerous things do, slowly, innocently, quietly. He listened to her, not the way people politely listen, but the way someone leans in, remembers details, notices pauses between words. With him, she felt seen. With him, the world softened. At first, there were no questions. Just conversations that lasted longer than they should have, smiles that stayed a second too late, and messages that felt warmer than the night air. Love didn't knock. It slipped in through the cracks of loneliness. When she found out he was married, it felt like the ground shifted beneath her feet. Her heart didn't break immediately. It froze. Because love doesn't vanish just because truth arrives. She tried to leave. She really did. But walking away from someone you love feels like tearing pages out of your own story. Every step away pulled her back with memories, with laughter, with the way he said her name like it mattered. She became the woman who waited. Waited for texts that came late. Waited for calls that ended quickly. Waited for moments stolen between responsibilities that were never hers. She laughed in public and cried in private. Because how do you explain missing someone you're not supposed to love? How do you grieve a relationship that never officially existed? He never promised her a future. That's the cruelest part. He only gave her presence, enough to keep her hoping, never enough to set her free. She knew she was standing in someone else's shadow. A life already built, a home already occupied, and still, her heart refused to understand what her mind screamed every night. Loving him felt like holding fire in her hands. Warm, beautiful, destructive. She questioned herself constantly. Am I wrong for feeling this? Am I selfish for staying? Am I weak for loving someone who can never choose me? But love isn't logical. It doesn't follow rules or respect boundaries drawn too late. In the end, what hurt the most wasn't that he was married. It was knowing she would always come second. Not because she lacked value, but because she arrived too late in his life. Letting go didn't happen in one dramatic goodbye. It happened slowly, through unanswered messages, through nights she chose sleep over hope, through mornings she chose dignity over desire. She didn't stop loving him. She simply stopped betraying herself. And maybe that's the real love story here. Not the one where two people end up together, but the one where a woman learns that loving someone should never cost her self-respect, her peace, or her place in the world. She loved a married man. But in the end, she chose herself. Love doesn't arrive with warnings or conditions. It doesn't ask about timing, status, or consequences before entering the heart. It simply happens, quietly at first, like a feeling you don't name because naming it would make it real. She didn't wake up one day and decide to love him. There was no moment where she said yes to the idea. It began with comfort, with familiarity, with the way his presence made the world feel less heavy. Love came disguised as conversation, as shared laughter over ordinary things, as understanding in moments when she felt unseen by everyone else. It arrived without permission, without invitation, without rules. She didn't check for boundaries because emotions don't carry maps. Her heart didn't pause to ask who he belonged to. It only recognized how safe it felt when he listened, how alive she felt when he smiled, how her thoughts kept drifting back to him without effort. That's the cruel beauty of love. It doesn't announce itself as danger. It feels like warmth, like relief, like finally exhaling after holding your breath for too long. And by the time you realize what it truly is, it has already made a home inside you. She told herself it was harmless. Just a connection, just admiration, just a passing feeling. But love grows in the spaces we underestimate. It grows in late-night conversations when honesty feels easier than silence. It grows when two souls meet in vulnerability. It grows when someone fills an emotional gap you didn't know was empty. She didn't chase love. Love found her when she wasn't looking, when she was simply being herself, when she trusted too easily, when she believed feelings alone couldn't hurt anyone. Love doesn't respect logic. It doesn't wait for perfect circumstances. It doesn't care about labels or vows made before it arrived. By the time she understood the truth, love had already taken root. And removing it felt impossible because it wasn't just a feeling anymore, it was part of her daily thoughts, her quiet moments, her unspoken hopes. That's how love asks no permission. It doesn't consult the future. It doesn't seek approval from morality or society. It simply claims the heart and leaves the mind to deal with the consequences. Becoming someone's secret changes the way love feels. It makes affection quieter, softer, almost apologetic. Every emotion has to lower its voice, as if love itself might be overheard. She learned to smile without showing too much happiness. She learned to hide excitement, to silence joy before it spilled into places it didn't belong. Because when you are a secret, even your emotions must stay hidden. There were no public gestures, no shared photographs, no casual mentions of names. Love existed only in private spaces, behind closed doors, inside messages deleted after reading, in conversations that ended too quickly. Her world shrank to moments that could not leave evidence. Silence became her companion, not the peaceful kind, but the heavy silence of holding feelings inside. She couldn't talk about him with friends. She couldn't ask for advice. She carried everything alone, protecting a story that didn't protect her. Waiting became normal. Waiting for replies. Waiting for availability. Waiting for time that was never truly hers. Her heart learned patience not because it wanted to, but because it had no choice. The hardest part of being a secret was not the hiding, it was the invisibility. Loving deeply yet never being acknowledged. Feeling important in private and non-existent in public. She existed only in the spaces between his responsibilities. She adjusted herself to fit into the cracks of his life. She accepted half conversations and unfinished moments. She convinced herself that love didn't need witnesses to be real. But silence has a cost. It presses on the chest. It makes the heart ache in ways that tears cannot release. Every unspoken word added weight to her loneliness. She watched others live freely while she measured every action. Every message was calculated. Every meeting was rushed. Every goodbye felt incomplete. Being a secret taught her restraint. It taught her how to love without claiming. How to miss without reaching. How to exist in someone's life without ever truly belonging. In the quiet, she often wondered if love should feel this small. If something so powerful should be forced to hide. If a heart could survive forever in silence. Loving someone you can never belong to is a special kind of ache. It's not loud or dramatic, it settles deep and stays there, constant and patient. Every feeling has to live with restraint, knowing that no matter how strong it grows, it will never be allowed to fully exist. She loved him, openly in her heart, but quietly in the world. There were so many things she wanted to do: hold his hand without looking around, say his name without fear, build memories that didn't have to be erased. Yet every desire ended where reality began. Her love had no destination. No future to imagine without guilt. No path where she could walk beside him instead of behind the scenes of his life. She loved knowing there was no place waiting for her at the end. Still, her heart didn't know how to stop. It kept offering devotion where it wasn't asked for, loyalty where it wasn't promised, tenderness where it couldn't be returned fully. She learned how to love without expectations. Or at least she told herself that. In truth, hope still slipped in quietly, disguised as patience. Hope that someday he would choose differently. Hope that love alone might be enough to change reality. Every shared moment carried two emotions at once. Joy, because she was with him. Pain, because she knew it wouldn't last. Happiness always arrived holding the hand of loss. She memorized him in ways that hurt. The way his voice softened when he spoke to her. The way he paused before saying goodbye. The way he looked at her like she mattered, even when the world couldn't know. She gave him the best parts of herself knowing she could never ask for the same in return. She loved deeply while accepting that her place in his life was temporary, conditional, and fragile. There is exhaustion in loving without belonging. It drains the soul slowly, not through heartbreak, but through constant self-denial. Through reminding yourself again and again that this love must remain incomplete. Yet she stayed, not because she was unaware, but because sometimes the heart chooses pain over emptiness. Loving him placed her in a quiet war, one no one else could see. Every day her heart moved forward while her conscience pulled her back. Two forces lived inside her, both demanding loyalty, neither willing to surrender. Her heart spoke in feelings. It reminded her of how alive she felt with him, how natural the connection was, how rare it is to find someone who understands your silences. Her heart didn't speak of right or wrong. It only spoke of longing. Her conscience, however, spoke in questions. It asked about vows that were not hers but still mattered. It asked about another woman living a life she could not see. It asked whether love excuses pain simply because it feels real. She tried to reason with herself. Told herself that emotions are not crimes. That she didn't choose this situation. That she never intended to cross invisible lines. But intention didn't erase responsibility. Every moment of closeness carried weight. Every smile felt slightly borrowed. Every laugh echoed with guilt afterward. She wasn't fighting to take someone away. She was fighting to understand where she stood. between desire and dignity, between honesty and attachment. Some days, her heart won. On those days, love felt pure, overwhelming, undeniable. She convinced herself that feelings this strong couldn't be wrong. That the connection must mean something beyond circumstances. Other days, her conscience rose louder. It reminded her that love should not exist at someone else's expense. That being chosen halfway is not the same as being chosen fully. That no matter how gently it happened, someone would eventually be hurt. She judged herself harshly in moments of clarity, questioned her character, wondered if love had turned her into someone she never meant to be. A woman standing in the middle of another life. There was no peace in this war. Only temporary victories followed by deeper doubt. The heart demanded closeness. The conscience demanded distance. She lived suspended between two truths. That her love was real, and that real love should not require silence, secrecy, or moral compromise. Each step toward him felt like a step away from herself. Letting go of love that was never meant to stay is not an act of strength, it is an act of survival. It begins long before the goodbye, in the quiet realization that holding on is costing more than losing ever could. She didn't wake up one day suddenly free. Detachment arrived slowly, disguised as exhaustion. As nights where hope felt heavier than loneliness. As moments when waiting no longer felt romantic, only empty. She started noticing the imbalance. How she rearranged her life while his remained untouched. How she gave time without receiving certainty. How she loved fully while being offered fragments. Letting go meant grieving something that never had a name. There were no anniversaries to mourn. No photographs to pack away. Just memories living in her chest with nowhere to go. She had to unlearn the habit of reaching for him. Unlearn the comfort of his voice. Unlearn the idea that love must hurt to be real. Every step back felt unnatural, like denying a part of herself. There was fear in leaving. Fear of the silence that would follow. Fear of emptiness where connection once lived. Fear that she might never feel that depth again. But staying carried a deeper fear, the fear of disappearing inside someone else's life. Of shrinking into a secret until even she forgot her own worth. Of loving forever without ever being chosen. Letting go required honesty, admitting that love alone was not enough. That timing matters. That availability matters. That self-respect matters. She learned that some love stories exist only to teach. To show where boundaries should have been. To reveal the difference between being desired and being claimed. To remind her that she deserves a love that stands in daylight. Walking away was not graceful. There were relapses of longing. Moments of weakness. Tears she thought were already cried. Yet with every step forward, she reclaimed something lost. Her voice, her peace, her sense of self. She didn't erase the love. She placed it where it belonged, in the past, as a chapter that shaped her but did not define her.